Hello, my name is Jennifer Cannell. I am the Title I Part A specialist at the State Department of Education. And today we're going to do a walkthrough on helping you to better understand the SWTA portal. The SWTA portal, SWTA stands for SchoolWide and Targeted Assistance, which are the two program options that we have for Title I. So, in order to properly look at your data for Title I, Part A, it would be really helpful if you had access to the official state collections tile in the AIM portal, as well as you definitely need access to your student data tile in the AIM portal and the SWTA portal, of course, because that's the one that you'll have to certify. We're going to talk a little bit um, about all three of those portals today and the process of reviewing your data versus certifying your data. And a lot of the data that is in the SWTA portal is actually pulled straight from PowerSchool. And so the only way that it can be changed is by changing the information in PowerSchool. There are a couple of pieces of data that have to be manually entered into the SWTA portal, but otherwise it's pulling from PowerSchool nightly. And that's why it's very important for your PowerSchool information to be correct. So I am going to go ahead and pull up the AIM portal if you want to follow along, and we will start looking at the official state collections. Okay, so in order for me to be able to better show you the portals, I am logged in as a LEA role user with a test account, as if I were assigned to Fort Payne. So that is you won't see the big yellow line up at the top like I have. That's just letting me know that this is a stage or a test account. If I'm scrolling down, I've got a ton of apps or portals on here, but we're looking for the online state collections. I'm sorry, not online, official state collections. Official state collections. We're looking for student data portal. And then, of course, the SWTA portal, and yours may be in a totally different order. You may have more apps than this or not as many apps as this. Here's the school-wide targeted assistance portal. I'm not going to go into the official state collections live because it shows student level data. And so to protect PII, I'm just going to show you a screenshot that's been blocked out when we talk about this portal. Before I go into that, I want to talk about reviewing your data. Reviewing your data really should take place before you certify your data, and you really should be reviewing the data in your SWTA portal throughout the year. Best practice would be like quarterly. You really need to review that data in the review period of the last day of school through the third Friday in June when PowerSchool rolls over for the next school year. Once PowerSchool closes out for the current school year, no changes can be made to your data that is pulled from PowerSchool. So your certification window is going to be open after PowerSchool closes. So if you wait when you go to certify to review your data, that's too late because the data can't be changed except for what you enter manually. So it's really important during that 3-week period from the last day of school through the third Friday in June that you're going in and reviewing your data. Now, the data can change from day to day depending on who in your district is working within that at the school level, LEA level. It will update overnight, and then you can have different numbers the very next day in your SWTA portal. It's really important to make sure that there are no errors or warnings in your attendance errors in your official state collection. Now, usually it is not going to be you, the federal program instructor, that goes in and makes those changes, but it's important that you know how to see if there are errors and warnings so that you can work with the appropriate person who has that role in your district. Sometimes it's the technology person at the central office, sometimes it's the individual registrars at the local school level. So I am going to move and show you a screenshot of the official state collections for a Title I school in Fort Payne. Okay, so we are now looking at a screenshot in the official state collections. When you go there, the first thing you want to do is look at these three words here: at home, attendance, and help. You will hover over attendance and you'll have a drop down menu that pops up. You want to select the attendance collection errors from this drop down to be looking at the correct view. You'll know you're looking at the correct view if you see here official state collections collection errors. Okay, again, I'm not showing you this live so that I could block out the PII. Okay, here we want to make sure we're in this school year 24-25. Of course, you should only be able to select your own system. I've just selected one of their Title I schools, and you want to make sure the collection is ninth month, which is end of year, but it updates nightly until that power school closes out. Okay, so you can see here that in this school, as of today, they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different errors uh, that are attendance errors. You can see that we've got immigrant student is missing county of origin, student is just provisionally enrolled instead of fully enrolled. We have overlapping enrollments in the district, so there could be enrollment dates that are overlapping. So these are all things that could impact the quality of your data and could change your numbers. You want to make sure that these are cleared before Power School closes. Again, you may not be the one clearing them, but you want to make sure that you're aware of these. And before you ensure that your data is ready to be submitted and certified, then you want to make sure that these are taken care of. When these are cleared, then you can feel more comfortable about the validity of your data. Errors absolutely must be cleared. Warnings usually can be cleared. There could be a legitimate reason sometimes for a warning. But if you have questions about how something can be corrected, Stacy Royster is going to be the person to ask there, as she is our, of course, Power School guru. Okay, I just wanted to show you this. You're aware of how to access this. You can look at each Title I school and go from there and work with the person in your district that is able to make these changes. Once they make the change, it's going to take overnight before it to roll off in this collection. So you can, check back in the next day and see what you have remaining. Again, it's very important that you're doing this in that 3-week period between the last day of school and the third Friday in June, and make sure that these are all taken care of. Okay, I recommend that when you pull the portals up, you pull both the student data portal up and the SWTA portal up side by side. So if you have duplicate screens, or you could take a screenshot of one and look at the other. On my left here, I've got the SWTA portal. When you get there, this is what you're going to see, but you want to go here to where it says survey, and you want to click on survey. And we are ready to start reviewing the data. We're going to scroll down and see what we see here. Okay, it's very important in the student data portal that we're looking at the correct view. So you're going to go to federal programs. You're going to select on students SWTA, and that's the view that you're going to select. If you look at any other view, you're not looking at the correct data. Okay, so you can see we've got this school year, we've got our school system. The whole school system is what we're looking at, not an individual school. You can look at individual schools when you're trying to nail down discrepancies, but for the overall view, the SWTA shows for the whole district. Okay, so this first thing that you're looking at is summary. It's really like the individual totals from each individual tab over here. So I don't get too caught up in checking this one because we're checking them on the individual tabs. So let's start here with student status. In student status is where we have to report in our consolidated state performance report our special populations that are receiving Title I Part A services within your district. So here is the view in SWTA. This student status section is where you're going to find that information here in the student data portal. So we're only looking at these 4 populations. The first one are going to be those students with disabilities, so those who have an IEP. So when we go look over here, we see this number is 323. When we look over here, we are looking down here for special ed. That's the one that we are looking to compare that to. And they should match, and they do match. We are not looking at total exceptionality. Don't get confused. If the numbers don't match, then there's an issue. You can call me to troubleshoot. But while you're doing the review of your data, these are the discrepancies that we need to take care of if there are any. It will be too late to take care of these discrepancies when the portal opens up for certification. So you've got to do it now. Okay, the next population is going to be those who are English learners, limited English proficient. We've got 769. If we go look, that's going to be our total EL here at the top, 769. That matches, so we're good to go. Okay, our third is going to be students experiencing homelessness. That's 68. When we look over here for our homeless population, it's going to be the second one, and it's 68, so it matches. We're good to go. Okay, finally, we're looking at those students who are identified as eligible migrant status. So we see that's 2. We go over here, we look at 2. This total right here, I don't worry about it. It's just the total here. It's not going to match anything over here, so you don't need to worry about this number. It's just these individual ones added up. All right, so we've got our student status taken care of. That matches. We are good to go with that. Okay, so we are going to move next to race and ethnic. This is a very important update for the 2026 certification of the SWTA tile. There were 2 changes made to race this year in PowerSchool that are impacting how the SWTA tile and the student data tile operate. The student data tile is showing things in a certain manner, which we're going to discuss based on these 2 changes in race. And the SWTA tile is currently undergoing a fix to appropriately identify by race. So please note that this is how the SWTA tile looks right now, but by the time the window opens for certification, we are hopeful that it will be processing the new race that was added appropriately. But stay tuned in case there are any other changes. Okay, so let's just first discuss the 2 changes that were made to race in PowerSchool for the 25-26 school year. Number 1, Hispanic Latino was removed as it now counts as a race. So where in previous years in PowerSchool, a student could be identified as Hispanic for an ethnicity and white for a race. Now that Hispanic counts as their race. So that is a big change. Now, we've always reported them an unduplicated count in the SWTA tile. So it just now aligns how they were being treated in the SWTA tile, but it looks differently than how we were looking at it in the past. The other change that was made in PowerSchool to race was there is now an addition of a new race, and that is North African Middle Eastern. So here, when we get to this race ethnic tile in the SWTA, when you're certifying your data, you're comparing that to the SWTA view in the student data tile. This used to not be the case, but now every single race should match except for this new race, North African Middle Eastern. Okay, that is going to fall under other races in the student data tile, and it's going to fall under missing race in the SWTA tile. Now, that's what we're trying to correct for the SWTA tile because they're not missing a race. But CSPR has not been updated to report on that new race, and therefore, we are instructed to roll any of those North African Middle Eastern students up into the white count in the SWTA tile. But you can see the SWTA tile is not doing that currently, but that's what the service desk ticket has been entered into our information services department so that they can get it to make that change. Because we don't want you guys to miss out on showing that you had that many students served just because CSPR is not updated for a race. So you can see when I compare the American Indian, Alaska Native, I've got 7 in my SWTA tile, and I have 7 over in my student data tile. Asian is 38. Black or African American is 1719. My Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander is 2. My white is 3624. But keep in mind, once the tile is corrected, it should roll those that are missing race up to here. And then that number is not going to match, but I know that my other races, which I have 3 in, it's rolling them up so that it doesn't not get reported because we don't report missing race on CSPR. Okay, and then we've got white is our 3624, which we just talked about. Those 3 will add up to them. Our 2 or more races, 447. Now, here's this new race that is now in PowerSchool, the North African Middle Eastern. It's showing them as an other race in student data, but a missing race. So once you certify, it's going to subtract these 3 from your total. Now, that's if you were to certify today, right now. Once the service desk ticket is completed, it should be taking those 3 and adding them to the white so that your total served by race ethnicity wouldn't be reduced by this amount of missing race. Okay, here's a big change. Used to your total would match exactly, and it doesn't now. So the reason it doesn't match is because now that Hispanic is counts as its own race, you would have to say the total plus the 297 to get the 6137. Okay, so that is going to be the the 2 main differences for this year with race ethnicity. We, like I said, are very hopeful that this will be resolved by the time the portal opens for the 2026 certification, and that it's going to take those missing races and put them up there. Hispanic Latino, you can see is 297 and 297. So they're being counted in this total, but not in this total because the Hispanic is sitting below the total. But if I took 5840 plus 297 and added them together, it would give me the 6137. The next data is going to be student participation in a targeted assistance program. We only have about 4 LEAs in the state, about 14 or 15 schools that are served as targeted assistance. If you happen to be one of those LEAs, you're welcome to call me for more information. These students have to be manually marked in PowerSchool as receiving targeted assistance services. Also, if the date of the end of service is prior to the end of the school year, they're not going to show up in the final report like they should. So you need to make sure your targeted assistance schools know that those students have to be manually marked, and they have to have the end of service date be no earlier than the last day of the school year. That includes if they rolled off receiving TA services at some point in the year, they should stay marked, and that end of service date should remain no earlier than the last day of the school year so that we can count them as receiving services. Okay, so of course, this LEA has no targeted assistance schools. These students here, if you're checking that, this is the column where you would see the TA students marked by grade level. Okay, so we're going to move on to student participation in a school-wide program. Here, these students are they're automatically counted as being served by Title I-A services just by being enrolled, because in a school-wide program, it benefits all the students. So if a student is enrolled in that school, then they're counted as being served by Title I. So these students aren't manually marked in PowerSchool. They're just, because they're enrolled, they're automatically showing up at the count. So what you need to do is make sure that these levels match per grade level. A lot of times we see that these numbers are off. The total number may, we're looking at the SW column in the student data. The total number may match, but it may be off by grade level. So that's an issue that someone's not marked at the right grade level in PowerSchool. Okay, so we're going to go through it. We do have to report on age 0 to 2 and age 3 to 5, so they do count. Let me tell you what does not count is grade 13, 14, and 15. We do not report on those grade levels in our CSPR. So they will be in the student data portal, but they will not be in the SWTA portal. So this total count may be off. And you can see here it's off by 1 because there's one student that was grade 13. So this total is going to be whatever this total is minus those in grade 13, 14, and 15. Grades 13, 14, and 15. So we're going to go through. Grade K has 256, and I just go down and I make sure that every grade level matches with a number. If not, then we've got a problem somewhere and we need to troubleshoot. Okay, when we're reviewing our data, we're going to skip the next two tabs because this is manual entry. We will come back to these later when we talk about certifying the portal. Okay, on to instructional services. You can see the math, reading, science, and then support services includes dental, health, guidance, advocacy, etc. These two tabs are for targeted assistance students. When those students are marked in PowerSchool, you manually have to mark the type of services they're receiving under instructional and support. So these numbers are automatically populated based on the data that's entered in PowerSchool, and this is where you find it in the student data portal. I'm going to scroll over, and you can see math. If any were math here, I should expect that to match this total here, on, and also with the support services here. So Title I, health, dental, eye care. Of course, they have, this LEA has no targeted assistance, so we're not going to see any instructional services or support services for any TA students. So that is how you review your data. And if it matches, like in this case, it matches, then we're good to go. I would be checking it more than once during that period because you might not have a problem today, but a problem may pop up tomorrow because someone in your district is changing things around. Okay, once the third Friday in June takes place, Power School closes, the data is in Power School is frozen and nothing can be changed, meaning nothing can be changed that is uploaded from Power School into SWTA. So again, it's important to get all these discrepancies worked out prior to then. Okay, so I am going to pause and I am going to close out the SWTA portal and come back and talk to you about certifying. I'm sorry, I'm going to close out the student data portal. I'm going to talk to you about certifying the SWTA portal. This concludes our portion on reviewing the data within that portal. Now we are going to go in and log in the SWTA portal and certify the data. This is what you'll need to certify this portal. You cannot certify the data until the certification window opens, and we will communicate with you about those dates. Again, it's going to open after Power School closes. So that's why it's very important that you've reviewed your data before you certify it, because it'll be too late to make any changes at this point in time. Okay, this is going to be what you see when it first pulls up, but for your LEA, you have got to go to survey. A lot of people tell me they don't see what to do when they open it up. It's because they haven't gone to that survey. Okay, you can see here that this is the view that we were looking at when we review it, but now the portal has been opened and so I can certify. So this is your certification area here. Okay. If you do not have this, then that probably means you don't have the correct role within your LEA and you need to talk about whoever assigns roles in AIM at your LEA to be given that status to certify. Okay, again, we're back down here with the data that we just looked at when we reviewed. Again, most of this automatically uploads from Power School. So at this point in time, we will not be able to make changes to that, but there are two data sets that if your LEA has these populations, you will need to enter them manually. The first one is going to be on the private school tab. So if in your LEA, you have any private schools that receive Title I, Part A equitable services, then you have to gather that data from your private schools and report that out. And that is going to be who received Title I services during the school year at the private school, and you need to know by grade level. So if you have multiple private schools, you would be reporting on how many students amongst all the private schools receive Title I-A services. And this you enter manually. So if it was 5, 6 in grade 1, you're going in and you're entering this manually. There is a problem if you had schools that private schools that participated in equitable services for Title I, and you don't list this data. So that is something that we'll send it back for, and you will have to enter it. When you complete that, you're going to click Save, and that's going to give you a private school total, and that data is going to be entered. The other one that you also have to manually enter is going to be neglected program. If your LEA has a Title I-A district set aside for neglected, not delinquent, this is going to be that neglected set aside. You're going to be listing the students here that were served with Title I at the facility. And it again needs to be listed by grade level. You just type in your numbers, you gather it from your facility that you work with, and click Save. I do want to emphasize here, I'm going to go switch my share screen, I do want to emphasize here the definition for those institutions for neglected children. So that is a public or private residential facility other than a foster home that is operated for the care of children who have been committed to the institution or voluntarily placed in the institution under applicable state law due to abandonment, neglect, or death of their parents or guardians. These are the children that you're reporting here. You are not reporting students from delinquent facilities. That would be those who are adjudicated to that facility in need of supervision. It's only going to be those served by your neglected set aside. All right. That's very important to note. So we're talking about the right population. Also, you shouldn't have students at a facility that you're classifying as both or one or the other. Like you can't have some delinquent at a facility or some neglected at a facility that you're serving. They all have to be identified as neglected or delinquent, and it's based on that facility's charter and how you reported them on your annual neglected or delinquent count. If you have questions about that, feel free. So once you enter this manual data, and if you don't have this manual data, then you don't have to worry about entering it. Then you know you're good. You can go back through and compare it to the student data portal, but if something doesn't match, it can't be corrected at this point. All of this that's got the grayed out box cannot be entered. That pulls directly from PowerSchool. So you're ready to go certify. So up here, you will see the certification statement that you're certifying to the best of your knowledge that the information is true, complete, and accurate. You check that box, and then you click the certify result button. And you'll say, are you sure you want to certify? You click OK. It's loading, and it should change our certification status. So now we have our certification status as yes. Once that happens, I will come in and I will review your data. If I find any issues, then I may reject your certification, and you'll have to go back in if there's something that we need to correct. For example, if you served private schools based on your EGAP application, but you forgot to enter the private school children served, then that's something I would send it back for. But I will contact you on a case-by-case basis if that's the case. So that's how you certify the portal. It's as easy as that. I hope that this little training was helpful to you guys. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm going to put up my contact information for you all, and I would be happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Okay, so this is my email address, my phone number, 694-4519, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have about the SWTA portal. Unfortunately, I'm not able to help with the other portals that also have to be certified. That will be the other colleagues that I work with. Each one of us are responsible for different portals. Okay, well, thank you so much, and I hope that this was helpful.